Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 6 of the series. Chapter 115, Chapter 115, Instant Kill. Chapter 115, Instant Kill. Silence reigned in the pen shop. The lady stood with her mouth agape, having witnessed something incredible. Only Yanhanchi showed any emotion outside of shock and awe. He had a faint smile, his eyes filled with profound respect. There was no doubt the story had moved him. Adam's son was interviewed, and this is what he said. He Jing calmly added. If you don't believe me, confirm it for yourselves. Zhou Shuer could not accept He Jing's imminent victory. She immediately took out her phone and searched for the interview He Jing mentioned. The results doused her in cold water, chilling her heart. It was all true. He Jing had not made anything up. The brand ambassador entered the official forums for Les Elfies, entering her search into the archives that only employees could access. Eventually, she pulled out an article entitled Le Cocon, corroborating He Jing's story. Much like the topic of same-sex couples, Adam's story was not widely publicized. Only those who know what to look for would dig it up. How did He Jing have such a deep understanding of the brand? Cheng Yi paled, shaking her head in disbelief. No. It can't be true. It can't be. Yet, despite her denial, she could not change the truth before her eyes. The gap between them gaped with the unforgiving jaws of a hungry chasm. Yanhanchi chuckled, his voice clear and pleasant. Miss Merit student, you've impressed me once again. He Jing always managed to defy his expectations, showing herself to be more outstanding than he could have imagined. She was like a ray of light, illuminating his world. One who has never seen the light will never know how dazzling it is. The lady was convinced of He Jing's victory and revealed a perfect smile. Miss, your understanding of our brand leaves me humbled. I think it is clear who has won this challenge. Congratulations, this fountain pen is yours. I believe you will do right by the legacy of this pen and what could have been for Mrs. Adam. Cheng Yi stared at the pen delivered to He Jing, chewing on her lower lip, aggrieved. However, He Jing shook her head. I'm sorry, but I don't want this pen anymore. I'll give it to the gold card customer. Cheng Yi stared at the pen delivered to He Jing, chewing on her lower lip. Aggrieved. He Jing bowed slightly. Elle chose it because of its price and appearance, not its story. After I shared the story, I realized I wasn't a good fit for the pen. I'm sorry. The lady did not show any disdain upon hearing He Jing's explanation. Instead, she said, Miss, you're very honest. I hope you'll find one that will suit you. The lady packaged the pen nicely, wrapping it in a gift box and signing Cheng Yi's name. Cheng Yi clenched her fists, showing no affection for Le Cocon. How could she want something that He Jing did not? It was as good as being given leftover goods. Cheng Yi did not want it either. Unfortunately, she could not say no, or she would be blacklisted for returning goods for no reason, not once, but twice. If that happened, she would never be able to buy anything from Les Elfies again. Zhou Shuer had hoped to see He Jing make a fool of herself, hence, she had called Cheng Yi, hoping she would cause trouble for the former. She did not expect Cheng Yi to be so useless, getting instantly killed by He Jing instead. Now, even she had lost some face. Unable to stand the humiliation any longer, Zhou Shuer snorted coldly and left. He Jing left the fountain pen shop with Yanhanchi. Only Cheng Yi remained. As she had exchanged her previous pen for Le Cocon, she had to wait for the lady to issue a refund. The lady returned 190,000 yuan of the 200,000 her original, custom-made pen would have cost. Once again, the lady's expression shifted to one with disdain. Chapter 116, Chapter 116, Other Gifts. Chapter 116, Other Gifts. Cheng Yi met that gaze and almost lost her composure. Ultimately, she left with Le Cocon and the 190,000 yuan notification. She comforted herself with the knowledge she had chosen a suitable birthday present. There was no doubt in her mind that He Ning would like the pen very much after learning Le Cocon's story. And then there was Yanhanchi. Cheng Yi had just tried a delectable dish at a nearby restaurant, and she believed he would like it. After leaving the fountain pen shop, Yan Hanshi was in a much better mood. With one hand in his pocket, he strolled down the road and asked with a faint smile, "How'd you learn of the story?" No one knew what was on He Jing's mind. "Take a guess," she said. "I don't think you read about it in Les Elfie's magazine interview. Unless. Don't tell me you managed to get your hands on inside knowledge. How'd you do it?" He Jing's expression changed. She met Yan Hanshi's gaze, her eyes flickering with fright. Yan Hanshi smirked. "I thought as much. Aren't you rather knowledgeable, now, He Jing?" He Jing realized that Yan Hanshi was teasing her. She frowned and rebuked him coldly, "Do you have nothing better to do?" Yan Hanshi only knew how to tease her. Yan Hanshi shrugged helplessly. "What do you mean? I don't even get any pleasure from praising you. You're so difficult." He Jing gnashed her teeth, not happy one bit. She had thought for a split second that he had found her out, unmasking her as a transmigrator. That's right. She had cheated earlier. All she had said was almost verbatim, quoted from the original novel about Les Elfies. Cheng Yi should have said those lines, but she had usurped them. In the original novel, the real and fake heiress met in the pen shop and fought for Lu Kokon. The shop assistant also used the method they had agreed on earlier to decide ownership of the pen. The real heiress suddenly recalled the story Yan Hanshi had told her about Lu Kokon, and she used that knowledge to slap the fake heiress in the face, winning Lu Kokon for herself. However, the Lu Kokon Cheng Yi in the original novel was not meant to be a gift for someone else. Instead, it was supposed to be for Cheng Yi's use. Its sole worth was as a trophy to remember her victory over the fake heiress. A series of short story arcs centered around Lu Kokon, but they were inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, merely serving as a face-slapping tool to increase her worth compared to the fake heiress. He Jing returned to Xinhua Street with Yan Hanshi and entered a department store. It was a run-of-the-mill store with nothing special about it. The only thing worth mentioning was the relatively inexpensive goods they offered for sale. "What are you looking for?" Yan Hanshi asked. He Jing did not respond. She kept walking forward with her head lowered. Yan Hanshi soon realized where they were headed. It was the sports section of the mall. He Jing stilled momentarily before picking up a basketball from the rack. There was nothing special about it. Everything about it screamed ordinary. Even the price tag, listing it at 168 yuan, was nothing unusual. Yan Hanshi was a little surprised. "Is this for your second brother?" The basketball did not seem like a good gift. At the very least, it was a far cry from Lu Kokon's worth at 10,000 yuan. "That's all right. There's a basketball court near where we live. With this, second brother can practice basketball anytime he wants," He Jing said. Yan Hanshi did not doubt He Jing's judgment and simply smiled. "If I knew you wanted one, I would have given you one of mine." He had so many basketballs that he could fill an entire warehouse. Every basketball had the signature of a popular basketball player. Each could be sold at sky-high prices at an auction or online. Only he had such a capability in all of a city. "The meaning is different," He Jing said calmly. "Only a basketball I've bought myself can be his birthday present. Nothing else would suffice." Yan Hanshi's interest was piqued. "My birthday is coming up soon. What are you going to give me?" he asked cheekily. He Jing was stunned for a moment. She stared at him for a long time, then looked away. "We'll talk about it closer to the date." Chapter 117, 20,000 yuan per mouthful. Chapter 117, 20,000 yuan per mouthful. He Jing wanted to ensure it was a surprise, so she did not bring the basketball to First High School. Instead, she gave it to Yan Hanshi for safekeeping. Yan Hanshi held a spinning basketball on the tip of his index finger and said with a meaningful smile, "If there's a chance in the future, I'll look for your second brother to exchange pointers." "It's probably for the best that you don't," He Jing responded immediately. "Second brother is very good at basketball. You can't beat him." That was what the original novel had written. Yan Hanshi snorted. "Are you looking down on me, Miss Merit student?" In all his 198 basketball games, not once had he lost. He Jing was too lazy to engage with Yan Hanshi's antics. She waved goodbye and went to First High School to pick up He Ning and He Sui. On the way there, she stopped by the supermarket to buy a few pounds of meat. After showing off her culinary skills to the He family, supper had become the meal everyone looked forward to the most. He Jing did not want to disappoint them and thought of making pork jerky later that night. Dried pork jerky was easy to store. If she made more, her siblings could even bring it to school to snack on. Unsurprisingly, her dried pork jerky was a huge hit, beloved by everyone except He Zhou. Snacks were comfort foods that humans enjoyed, regardless of their shape or form. When she arrived at school the next day, He Jing found something strange about her schoolmates. Everyone seemed to be behaving sneakily. That strange feeling intensified, becoming almost awkward when she entered her class. Wu Yu leaned over and whispered into her ear, "Cheng Yi bribed the whole class." He Jing cocked a brow, looking confused. "A bribe? What did she bribe you with?" "She brought a lot of food and gave everyone a share. Almost no one refused the gesture save for Sister Qiuyu and me," Wu Yu explained. He Jing mulled over things, deciding that it was a reasonable decision by her classmates. After all, the Qing family's status was still intact. It was not wise to antagonize or show Cheng Yi disrespect, especially when she had come with good intentions. He Jing laughed. "Why not? It's free food. Just take it." "I'm afraid she'll poison me," Wu Yu answered sincerely. A clear, melodious voice interrupted them, saying, "He Jing, I brought some food today. Do you want to try some?" Turning around, Cheng Yi stood beside them with a paper box half the size of a palm. The cardboard box in her hand had a vintage feel to it. Inside was a small and exquisite snack. The golden surface looked very crispy. When He Jing saw the snack, she recognized it and smiled calmly. "Are you sure you want to treat me? One mouthful is 20,000 yuan. Cheng Yi did not expect He Jing to be so knowledgeable, but her surprise was only momentary, shifting behind a pleasant mask soon after. "Of course. You're my classmate, there's no reason for me to exclude you." He Jing said a quick thank you and accepted the treat graciously. Wu Yu truly felt that Cheng Yi would poison her and politely declined. Even if his snack was not poisoned, what about? He suddenly grabbed He Jing by the arm and said, "Sister Jing, are you sure it's safe to eat?" "Student. Cheng Yi is being so generous. Why wouldn't I sample what she's offering me? If you miss this opportunity, you might not be able to try something like this again." He Jing wasted no time and popped the snack into her mouth. She savored the taste and said, "It's delicious. Thank you, student Cheng Yi." Cheng Yi was dumbfounded. She thought He Jing would refuse to eat the snack. Not only had she eaten it, but she also thanked her for the treat. Cheng Yi wanted nothing more than to slap He Jing's sincere smile off her face with the remains of her empty paper box. Who was she kidding? Cheng Yi had hoped to get a rise out of He Jing, not for her to eat the luxurious snack. Cheng Yi wanted to let He Jing know that the French jelly she had bought was not on the same level as the dessert she had chosen. Only her food could please. Yan Hanqi. Chapter 118, Chapter 118, Amazing Taste. Chapter 118, Amazing Taste. Yan Hanqi arrived just then. He entered the class with smooth, elegant steps. His lopsided collar and general air about him seemed to scream lazy. Yan Hanqi always looked sloppy and listless, like the typical rich playboy. Even now, while his expression indicated his foul mood, no one found him loathsome. Wherever his gaze landed, girls would blush, and their hearts would race. Cheng Yi was no exception. As usual, he walked to He Jing's side and greeted cheerfully, "Good morning, merit student." "Morning," He Jing replied. He eyed the fresh crumbs staining her lips and teased, "What good food have you been eating behind my back?" He Jing licked her lips and pointed at something behind him. "Everyone has a share." Yan Hanqi turned around and saw Cheng Yi standing up from her seat, holding an exquisite paper box. Nestled within was a snack. It was small and shaped like a pear, with a crispy golden surface. It looked very tempting. Cheng Yi walked up to him and called out shyly, "Student Yan." Her intent was self-evident. Yan Hanqi glanced sideways at He Jing and then at Cheng Yi. He smiled playfully and asked, "What's the occasion?" Cheng Yi had prepared a reason just for this question. She boldly looked up at him. "Student Yan, I accidentally ate a very delicious snack yesterday. I want you to try it. Yan Hanqi's eyes never left He Jing. I don't eat things others have eaten, he responded casually. No one else has eaten this before, Cheng Yi quickly said. I prepared this for student Yan alone. After a pause, she feared he would not believe her, so she dragged Zhou Shuer into it. Shuer can testify. If that's the case, thank you for your kindness, student Cheng Yi, Yan Hanqi said reluctantly. Cheng Yi was delighted and immediately handed him the snacks. As long as Yan Hanqi was willing to eat it, she was sure this snack would suit his tastes. By then, He Jing and her French jelly would be a thing of the past. Yan Hanqi picked up a piece and popped it in his mouth. Yan Hanqi never ate other people's food. He had only broken this precedent once for He Jing, and now a second time for Cheng Yi. For some reason, everyone in class held their breath. Cheng Yi watched Yan Hanqi savor the snack, chewing once, twice, 3 times. Then, he swallowed it. He did not puke. He did not puke. Cheng Yi could no longer hide the ecstasy in her heart. She beamed and looked at He Jing, full of pride. The others were also stunned. Could the French jelly He Jing brought to school not be as good as the snacks Cheng Yi had arrived with? That's right. He Jing was a poor girl now. What high-end things could she buy? They looked at He Jing, their eyes filled with sympathy. Yan Hanqi had accepted Cheng Yi's food, which meant that he had accepted Cheng Yi. He Jing's position in Yan Hanqi's heart might be unstable. Cheng Yi had similar thoughts. Her smile became even sweeter. Student Yan, do you want some more? She thought Yan Hanqi would agree, but he declined. No, thank you. He wiped his mouth with a napkin and said, it must have been hard on you, student Cheng Yi. It isn't easy for you to find something that doesn't taste bad. Puff. He Jing finally could not help but laugh, her shoulders trembling. She knew Yan Hanqi would not like it. But weren't his words a little too harsh? Cheng Yi's face paled, unable to accept this blow. Wah. What? Yan Hanqi mercilessly shattered any illusion she had and said in slow, stilted words, I stopped eating junk food when I was 3. Chapter 119, Chapter 119, Who said I bought it? Chapter 119, Who said I bought it? Didn't student Yan eat everything just now? Cheng Yi was about to cry. Yan Hanqi glanced at her coldly. Don't you know that the country advocates against food wastage? Not spitting it out is already me showing the chef the highest respect. Cheng Yi refused to believe it. This was the food she had eaten in the most luxurious hotel in a city. She had asked around just now, and everyone said it was delicious. Could He Jing's French jelly be better than the snack she had offered Yan Hanqi? How could He Jing's French jelly, something she had made after earning money by selling her study notes, compare to her 20,000 yuan snack? Yan Hanqi was prejudiced, hoping to humiliate her by insulting the snack she had bought him. Cheng Yi's hands clenched into fists as she mustered the courage to retort, Student Yan, you may hate me as much as you want, but you shouldn't lie to yourself. Yan Hanqi looked at her as if he were looking at an idiot and said, did you buy this pear-shaped snack from Soaring Dragon Hotel? Cheng Yi's expression froze. The head chef of Soaring Dragon Hotel was someone fired by the Yan family 10 years ago, Yan Hanqi said coldly. Cheng Yi felt like she had been doused with a basin of cold water, chilling her heart. How could this be? The head chef of Soaring Dragon Hotel had amazing credentials. Besides the 3-star Michelin award for the restaurant he helmed, he also won several other awards. His skills haven't improved even after so many years, Yan Hanqi mocked. Only his food could be so unpalatable to leave such a lasting impression on someone. Cheng Yi, you've lived a harsh life, so you can't tell the difference between what's good and what's not. Cheng Yi cried. Her tears fell pitifully. Does the French jelly He Jing bought up to your tastes? Cheng Yi was unwilling to back down without a fight. If she could not produce something up to Yan Hanqi's standards, there was no way He Jing could have. Yan Hanqi smirked, seemingly proud of He Jing's accomplishment. He Jing's talent is outstanding. She is an amazing cook. Cheng Yi could not accept such high praise directed at someone else, especially He Jing. So engrossed in her thoughts was Cheng Yi that she did not have the chance to process Yan Hanqi's words regarding He Jing's outstanding talent and not some mystery chef who had made the French jelly. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. May I know where He Jing bought the French jelly? He Jing smiled impishly. Cheng Yi gritted her teeth. There was no reason for the Qing family to lie to her about He Jing's capabilities. He Jing could not have possibly fooled the Qing family so completely as to hide her ability to cook so well. I wasn't always so good at cooking. I fumbled a lot, but I improved with time and practice. I now know how to cook. You're lying. Zhou Shuer screamed. How could there be such a genius in the world? If He Jing were as capable as she claimed, even the ancient imperial chefs of old would have no choice but to crawl out of their graves, kneeling and begging to become her disciple. Why would I lie? He Jing countered in amusement. Zhou Shuer was not as patient as Cheng Yi. She glared at He Jing fiercely and said, if you know how to cook, why did you order people around during our cooking classes in the past? He Jing hummed in thought, preparing an answer that would be as believable as possible. Maybe I was just too lazy to bother. Zhou Shuer did not believe a word He Jing said. Not once had He Jing let go of an opportunity to show off in front of Yan Hanqi. The cooking class was the one class Yan Hanqi attended the most. The only reason He Jing never did anything during those classes was because she knew her strengths and weaknesses, and cooking was certainly not one of her strengths. Now, she was so thick-skinned to say she had had the talent all along. Chapter 120, Chapter 120, Birthday. Chapter 120, Birthday. If even this was tolerated, was there anything that couldn't be? Do you dare demonstrate your skills in front of everyone? Zhou Shuer demanded angrily. He Jing was not afraid to do so, but she felt that there was no need. Hence, she said, perhaps when I'm in a good mood. When will you be in a good mood? Do you need me to throw a party to liven things up? He Jing quirked a brow. Who knows? I might be in a good mood in 3 to 5 days, or it might take 5 or 6 years for such a mood to descend upon me. There's even a chance that I might never be in a good mood till I'm in my 70s or 80s. This was complete nonsense. They could tell He Jing did not intend to show off her cooking skills. Zhou Shuer's provocation was destined to fail. Soon, the bell rang, and their homeroom teacher entered. The school has decided to resume its cooking classes, their homeroom teacher said. We've invited a new cooking teacher in the hopes that everyone will improve their skills over the new year. The school will conduct several cooking-related activities, and those who perform well will be rewarded handsomely. The news of the school's intent created an uproar. Countless eyes trained on He Jing, wondering, is this fate? If the school restarted its cooking program, He Jing's culinary skills would be tested, and she would not be able to escape the sharp eye of the public. He Jing frowned, glaring at Yan Hanqi. Did you do this? This was beyond coincidence. How could the school have come to this decision if not for someone orchestrating things behind the scenes? Yan Hanqi chuckled. I wanted to provide you with a way to earn money so you wouldn't drop out of school due to poverty. I didn't expect to cause you trouble. I'm sorry. Yan Hanqi may have apologized, but he certainly did not seem apologetic. You schemer. He Jing spat after a momentary silence. As the son of a shareholder of the school, why would he be so conscientious as to let others profit? Yan Hanqi was a crook, no matter how she tried to look at things. At the same time, Cheng Yi's eyes lit up as she returned to her seat, barely masking her delight. It seemed the heavens were on her side. While cooking classes loomed in the near future, He Ning's birthday arrived. He Jing took the basketball she had asked Yan Hanqi to hold onto for safekeeping. Yan Hanqi helped her wrap it up and boxed it in a package with the signature of a famous basketballer on the cover. He Jing had tried to refuse the additions, but Yan Hanqi threw away the net bag she had used to store the basketball and refused to allow her to retrieve it. By the time she tried to protest, Yan Hanqi had already gift-wrapped the basketball for her, even putting a note on the box that read, "Happy birthday, second brother." Since Yan Hanqi would likely be with Cheng Yi in the future, and He Ning was almost a brother-in-law in all but name, she reasoned there was no need to be so calculating. So, she carried the ball and the box back. He Ning, He Sui, and Cheng Yi were already waiting outside in high school. They were very eye-catching. The three of them were chatting, interspersed by laughter. As soon as He Jing arrived, the happy atmosphere withered. Cheng Yi smiled innocently and said, "Sister He Jing, I'm returning to the He family home today to celebrate second brother's birthday. You don't mind, do you?" He Jing smiled. Why would I? Am I such a petty person in Sister Cheng Yi's heart? Before Cheng Yi could retort, He Sui interrupted, of course not. Xiao Yi, don't worry. With us around, He Jing won't bully you. He Ning frowned and reminded him, mind your words. He was not defending He Jing so much as he was trying to redirect her displeasure towards Cheng Yi before it became an issue. Little did he know that when those words entered Cheng Yi's ears, the latter grew uncomfortable, and her expression turned forced. I believe second brother. Let's go home. He Jing smiled faintly. Sister Cheng Yi, are you taking the Cheng family's car to the He family? I'll take the bus. Please let second brother and fourth brother return home with you. I'll take the bus with He Jing, He Sui said, I'm not used to sitting in a small car. Cheng Yi's expression could no longer be described as ugly. She looked at He Ning. What about second brother? Are you going to take the bus with Sister He Jing? He Ning looked at He Sui and He Jing, then shook his head. I'll go with you. Eventually, the four of them parted ways and went home in pairs. Chapter 121, Chapter 121, Comparisons. Chapter 121, Comparisons. On the way, He Sui stared curiously at the box in He Jing's arms. He rubbed his hands and asked, what's in it? He Jing ignored him and did not answer. I'm sure what you've prepared for me can't compare to the one for second brother, He Sui said sourly. Everyone has liked him more than me since we were young. He Ning was the secondary male lead, of course, he was better liked than He Sui, a mere supporting character. But for his status as the secondary male lead, He Ning, with his solitary nature, would not have been as likable. He Jing could not help but find He Sui's lament funny. Don't worry, I got him a basketball. There's nothing special about it. It only cost 168 yuan, it wasn't as expensive as your computer. He Sui mustered up his courage, opening the box to look. Relieved, he brushed it off by saying, I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Don't tell anyone what I said. He Jing readily agreed. I won't. Tell you what, for your birthday, I'll get you a gift that costs exactly 169 yuan. He Sui coughed, unable to stifle his laugh. A boyish grin drew an arc from one side of his face to another, reaching his ears. Just like that, they returned to the He family's house. He Zhou was already waiting. He Xiaoguo opened the door and peeked outside. When he saw the luxury car parked at the neighborhood entrance and He Ning and Cheng Yi getting out of it, He Xiaoguo immediately rushed to them, throwing his arms around Cheng Yi. Sister Cheng Yi, he cried shyly. He Zhou was afraid that he would wrinkle Cheng Yi's dress, so he said. Xiaoguo, that's enough. He Xiaoguo let go of Cheng Yi reluctantly. Seeing that Cheng Yi had no intention of reciprocating his hug, he huffed in disappointment with a muttered, okay, retreating to the side. At this moment, Cheng Yi's attention was all on He Zhou. She smiled gently. Third brother, I'm back. He Zhou smiled warmly. Go in and have a seat. Fifth brother and sixth brother will be back soon. Cheng Yi nodded, instructing her bodyguards to wait outside before entering the house. He Zhou glanced at He Ning. He Sui and He Jing were nowhere to be seen. Where did the other two go? He asked. They took the bus and will be back soon, He Ning replied. As he spoke, he spared the two bodyguards standing outside the house as if they were a pair of wooden stakes. He did not know what to think, and his emotions were a tangled mess. All through his trip home, he had felt uncomfortable. He could not find the right words to describe how he felt. It was like a vast chasm had opened between him and Cheng Yi, separating them into two worlds, one, the earth, and the other, the sky. He Ning deliberately stood by the entrance to their neighborhood. After a while, he saw He Jing and He Yi getting off the bus. The two talked and laughed intimately as a pair of siblings should. He pursed his lips, suddenly overcome by a wave of irritation. He Jing and He Sui approached. Upon seeing He Ning standing by the entrance to the neighborhood, He Sui asked, was the Cheng family's car really so slow? Second brother, why haven't you entered the house yet? Meanwhile, He Jing noticed He Xiaoguo, who stood at a distance, looking awkward and ignored. She fished out a bee of chocolate and broke 2 pieces off for He Xiaoguo. Xiaoguo, do you want to play a game? It's called Guess the Candy. He Xiaoguo looked up. When he saw He Jing's clenched hands, his eyes lit up. He pointed at He Jing's right hand somewhat hesitantly and said, This one. Xiaogua is so smart, He Jing said as she opened her closed right hand, a playful smile on her lips. He Xiaogua's face shone like the sun. He took the proffered piece of chocolate and latched onto He Jing's thigh. Sister He Jing, he chirped happily. All right, let's head inside. He Jing picked the young boy up, leading the way for the rest to follow. He Xiaogua wrapped his arms around He Jing's neck, resting his head on her shoulders, sprawling contentedly like a kitten. His satisfaction was clear to all. He Sui watched helplessly as He Jing carried He Xiaogua into the house. Hey, wait for me, he huffed, chasing the pair. He Zhou and He Ning looked at each other, remaining in place. Chapter 122, Chapter 122, exactly the same. Chapter 122, exactly the same. When He Jing entered, she discovered Cheng Yi in her room, flipping through her books and notes. He Jing's expression turned cold, and she immediately snatched her things from Cheng Yi's hands. Please don't touch my things, He Jing hissed. Cheng Yi was not embarrassed despite having been caught snooping through He Jing's things. This used to be my room, she drawled. I didn't expect it to be in this state. I certainly didn't leave it in the state it is now when I left. It seems no one has bothered to help you tidy things up. He Jing could tell Cheng Yi was trying to show off her status in the family. She could not be bothered to play Cheng Yi's games and said, please get out. Cheng Yi smiled smugly and turned to leave. She had achieved her goal anyway. She was sure He Jing's status was not very high in the family. It seemed she had let her imagination run wild and panicked for nothing. But it did not matter. She would soon take back what belonged to her. He Ning was on the phone with his parents when he left the house. Although they were on a business trip, they did not forget He Ning's birthday. 5 minutes later, He Yuan came back. He had taken a half day at work to celebrate He Ning's birthday. He even brought cake. From its size, it looked around 12 inches long. He Yi and He Chen also returned around the same time. He Jing was greeted by the sight of 2 teenagers, who looked very similar, as soon as she stepped out of the room. They were wearing the same t-shirt and jeans. They were twins. This was going to be troublesome. Like the other brothers of the He family, He Yi and He Chen also inherited the excellent appearance genes of their parents. They had long eyelashes, double eyelids, and pupils, the uncanny shade of obsidian so unlike most others. Both sported short hair, barely tickling the tips of their ears. It gave them the look of 2 beautiful porcelain dolls. Cheng Yi snickered, having expected He Jing to find herself in a tricky position. With her nose and chin raised, she strode to the 2 and greeted, 5th brother, 6th brother. Xiao Yi, you're back, the twins replied almost simultaneously. He Sui silently crept to He Jing's side and whispered, 5th brother is the one on the left. The one on the right is 6th brother. 5th brother and 6th brother have a different feel to them. He Jing noticed that her 5th brother, He Yi, was more reserved, while her 6th brother was more outgoing. 5th brother, 6th brother, I'm He Jing, your sister. This is the gift I've prepared for you both. She handed the cartoon key and bookmark to He Yi and Chen, respectively. They looked down at the things in their hands and fell silent. Then, almost in unison, they looked at her, smiling gently. Thank you. I'm He Yi. Thank you. I'm He Chen. Cheng Yi was momentarily stunned by the twins' reaction, anger slowly dominating all other emotions. She had not expected He Jing to bribe them with gifts so openly. Fortunately, she had come prepared. 5th brother, 6th brother, I've also brought some gifts for you both, Cheng Yi interrupted. I'll have someone bring them in. Cheng Yi called a bodyguard and asked them to bring a few things from the car's trunk. She had gotten them 2 pairs of identical sneakers. He Yi received the shoes. He was also silent for a moment. Then, he smiled. Xiao Yi, you're so thoughtful. He Chen lowered his head and placed the pair of sneakers by his feet to compare them. Then, he said, I like them very much. Cheng Yi heaved a sigh of relief and glanced at He Jing proudly. What was the use of the cartoon keychain and the antique bookmark? The He family were all practical people. He Yi and He Chen's shoes were old, so they would like the gifts she gave them more. Half-siblings were still half-siblings. Chapter 123, Chapter 123, Surprise. Chapter 123, Surprise. This little interlude flashed by, and the birthday celebration officially began. He Ning blew out the candles, made a wish, and began to accept everyone's blessings and gifts. He Yuan also gave He Ning a pair of sneakers. Of course, this pair of sneakers was not as expensive as the ones Cheng Yi had given He Yi and He Chen. Therefore, He Yuan was a little embarrassed when he gave them away. Just make do with it. Thank you, big brother, He Ning said expressionlessly. He Zhou gave He Ning a pair of headphones. It was a brandless pair with no distinguishing features. It was obvious they were bought from a street stall. Perhaps they only cost 20 yuan. Nonetheless, He Ning hung the headphones around his neck. Soon, it was He Sui's turn. He Sui rubbed his hands together and chuckled, He Jing and I got this gift for you. He Jing was speechless. He Sui was freeloading off her. Meanwhile, He Yi and He Chen had given He Ning a pair of off-season gloves they had bought at a clearance sale and a dictionary at a discount because of a manufacturing defect causing the words to appear in fine print. Cheng Yi hoped to ring up the suspense and said, let sister He Jing give hers first. Maybe her gift will bring second brother a surprise, and he'll like it so much that he won't want mine. He Jing glanced at Cheng Yi indifferently. How could she not know what Cheng Yi was doing? Cheng Yi wanted to save hers for last to make it seem more important. After all, the best was always kept for last as part of a grand finale. He Jing could not be bothered to call Cheng Yi out on her scheme. She was here to celebrate He Ning's birthday with him, not compare whose gift was better. Without fanfare, she handed He Ning a box with the signature of a famous basketballer scrawled on the cover. Second brother, happy birthday to you. He Ning's pupils suddenly contracted, and his breathing became heavy. His usually cold expression was broken. This is a basketball. Before He Ning could open it himself, He Sui let his mouth get the better of him and blurted. He Ning looked at He Jing in shock. He opened the box with trembling hands, almost in disbelief. Indeed, within was a basketball. He Ning could not control himself and burst into joyful laughter. His eyes were filled with excitement that could not be concealed. He bounced the basketball, patting it all over to check its elasticity. Satisfied by what his senses shared, he caressed the ball lovingly and spoke from the bottom of his heart, thank you. I like it very much. Cheng Yi's eyes widened in shock. He Ning liked to play basketball. When did this happen? As if reading her thoughts, He Sui puffed out his chest, boasting, you didn't know, did you? Second brother is an amazing basketball player, and many girls swoon when they see him play. Even the coach of the city's basketball team tried to recruit second brother, hoping he would give up his studies to become a national athlete instead. If second brother hadn't said it was too risky and couldn't help his family attain a better life, he would have become a member of the city basketball team already. They had not known. To think He Ning had made such a huge sacrifice for the family without them knowing. Then how did He Jing know? Everyone could not help but stare at He Jing. He Jing endured their questioning looks calmly. With a faint smile, she said, every time second brother and I go home together by bus, we pass by the stadium at the city center. Second brother always takes a second look, almost longingly. So I thought second brother must really like sports, so I bought this basketball, which most boys like. I'm glad he likes it. Everyone came to a realization and felt guilty. He Jing had only taken the bus with He Ning, yet she could conclude that He Ning had a passion for basketball. They had lived under the same roof with He Ning for so long, but they were none the wiser. He Sui, being the jealous weirdo he was, whined, He Jing. You care so much about second brother. What about me? You aren't as considerate with me as you are with him. Chapter 124, Chapter 124, A Mistake. Chapter 124, A Mistake. He Ning listened to He Jing's words, gobsmacked. How could He Jing have been so considerate toward him for so long without him knowing? He had always thought she was trying to curry favor with the He family to integrate as soon as possible, it had always just been a formality in his mind. Suddenly, he felt an indescribable emotion burbling from the depths of his heart. Now that he looked at He Jing, she had the face of a god kissed by an angel, her ruby-red lips were curved into a smile, and her eyes reflected a beautiful, otherworldly light. No one would think she had been born into a poor family like theirs or that she would willingly become part of the family. Perhaps he had allowed his prejudice to cloud his judgment more than he realized. He Xiaoguo pouted, his hands cupping his sullen face. I want my birthday to come soon, too. I wonder if sister will give me a toy car or a Gundam. He Jing smiled and patted his head. Grow up quickly, and you'll find out soon enough. Time passes too slowly, he Xiaoguo groaned, twiddling his thumbs. Everyone's gifts had been given, leaving only Cheng Yi's. Ever since He Sui found out about He Jing's gift, he had been looking forward to seeing Cheng Yi's gift for some time. Xiao Yi, let's have a look at your gift. He Sui urged excitedly. Cheng Yi could not keep a straight face any longer. He Jing's gift was too great of a surprise. Cheng Yi did not think she could evoke the same reaction in Yi Ning with her gift. No. Now that she thought about it, her gift was more expensive than He Jing's, and its meaning was very touching. It might not be inferior to He Jing's gift. An elegant smile bloomed once more as Cheng Yi removed the fountain pen from its gift box. Faking her inner calm, she said, Happy birthday, second brother. He Ning was also looking forward to Cheng Yi's gift. He moved with exaggerated slowness, opening the lid, and saw the fountain pen tucked inside. A hint of disappointment flashed across his face, but he quickly hid it behind a charming smile. Thank you, Xiao Yi. It's a beautiful fountain pen. This is a fountain pen from Les Elfies. It costs 10,000 yuan. Cheng Yi said, and there's a very touching story behind it. What is it? He Sui asked. Cheng Yi deliberately cued He Jing. Sister He Jing knows this story too. Why don't we let Sister He Jing tell it? She'll recount it better than me. No, it's fine. This is your gift, so you should give it to second brother yourself, He Jing said. Only then did Cheng Yi tell the story of Lu Kokan unhurriedly. When she finished, a hush fell over the living room. Cheng Yi did not get the applause she had thought she would. Her heart skipped a beat, and she looked around nervously. Why? What's wrong? He Yuan was the first to respond. It's nothing, it was an interesting story. He Sui laughed dryly. Ah, I see. Let's cut the cake. Let's cut the cake. Cheng Yi suddenly felt like she was in an ice cellar, and her body turned cold. After living with them for so long, she could tell when they were being genuine or not. He Yuan and He Sui's reactions spoke for themselves. She eyed He Ning suspiciously. He Ning's ears were tinged red, and he quickly averted his eyes, gulping audibly. Xiao Yi, I like it very much. Cheng Yi did not believe him. She turned to He Jing, believing the problem stemmed from her. He Jing met her gaze. Her red lips curled up slightly. Sister Cheng Yi, I didn't expect you to like second brother so much. He Xiaoguo was simultaneously surprised and confused. It was as if a door to a new world had opened for him. The penny dropped for Cheng Yi. What kind of message had she sent to the He family? Chapter 125, Chapter 125, of course, it's because. Chapter 125, of course, it's because. Lu Kokan was a story of two individuals falling in love. A forbidden love that was never meant to be. Wasn't she the one who was wildly hinting at an incestuous relationship with He Ning? Even if He Yuan and the others did not misunderstand, the connotation was not something that best described her relationship with He Ning. No wonder the He family gave her such strange looks. Cheng Yi paled, losing all color on her face. She looked at He Jing with burning eyes and finally understood why He Jing had given up the right to get this pen. It was because she was setting her up. She had long expected today's events. If He Jing knew what Cheng Yi was thinking, she would be speechless. At that time, she simply wanted to buy He Ning a better pen. Even if she chose to snatch the prize from Cheng Yi, she would have only treated it as an ordinary pen without mentioning Lu Kokan's history. Cheng Yi could only blame herself for being such a show-off. Just like that, the incident with the pen came to a close. The rest of the He family pretended not to have heard the story Cheng Yi recounted. To keep up appearances, He Ning, as the eye of the storm, had no choice but to put a tight leash on his emotions. Soon, He Zhou served dinner. He Zhou prepared 10 dishes, 5 vegetables, 3 meat dishes, a sweet soup, and a snack. It was a sumptuous feast. He Yuan called everyone to the table. He Jing was arranged to sit with Cheng Yi. He Xiaogua hugged He Jing and refused to let go, so he sat on He Jing's lap. The first dish was a tasty soup with hawthorn, apples, and rock sugar as the base. It glimmered red and white, its beauty was unmistakable. He Zhou scooped a small bowl of soup, but contrary to expectations, he did not offer it to He Ning. Instead, he circled the table in the direction where He Jing and Cheng Yi were seated. Cheng Yi perked up. Regardless of what devilry He Jing had used to convert He Sui to her side, she still had He Zhou. No one in the He family doted on her more than He Zhou. She hastily smoothed out her expression, wanting to show He Zhou a beatific smile. Thank you, third brother. He Xiaogua snatched the hawthorn soup from He Zhou's hand and handed it to He Jing. Cheng Yi's expression changed. She stared at He Xiaogua in embarrassment and anger. Xiaogua, don't be rude. Let Sister Xiao Yi drink first, He Yuan chided. After all, she was a guest now that she had returned to the Qing family. He Yi and He Chen were also a little dissatisfied. Although He Jing looked good, Cheng Yi had lived with them for many years. He could not be so biased. He Xiaogua, who had been reprimanded out of the blue, was caught off guard. He could not understand what he had done wrong. With his head bowed, he mumbled, "Oh oh." Cheng Yi pretended to be magnanimous and said gently, "It's okay. Xiaogua is still young and doesn't know what's going on. Don't be so harsh on him, big brother." "This bowl of soup is for He Jing," He Zhou suddenly said. Cheng Yi's smile froze. He Sui and He Ning both understood why He Zhou was acting the way he was but chose to remain silent. "What do you think? Has it boiled long enough?" He Zhou asked He Jing. If it had not boiled long enough, he would pour the soup back into the pot and continue boiling it for a while longer. He Jing took a sip with the spoon He Zhou offered. She smiled faintly. "It's delicious. Third brother's cooking is amazing." Having received He Jing's approval, he ladled a second bowl for Cheng Yi, but she did not take it. Her eyes were swollen, looking like she was close to tears. "Third brother, what's going on?" He Yuan could not help but ask. He Zhou had always doted on Cheng Yi. There was no reason for him not to give the first bowl of soup to Cheng Yi. Could He Jing have conquered He Zhou's heart in the short few days that he was not home? Enjoying the feeling of knowing something his sibling did not, He Sui cocked a brow and smiled snootily. What else could it be? He Jing's cooking is better than third brother's, that's all. Chapter 126, Chapter 126, She Can Cook. Chapter 126, She Can Cook. Cheng Yi did not even have time to cry. She stood up so quickly that the cutlery on the table jumped. She almost lost her voice. "What did you say?" "Third brother's cooking isn't as good as He Jing's, so he lets her taste everything first. That way, he can improve it if she finds it lacking. Second brother, He Xiaogua, and I have always tacitly agreed." Cheng Yi was dumbfounded. How was this possible? But the Qing family's housekeeper said that He Jing doesn't know how to cook, and she has never cooked before. Cheng Yi revealed. He Zhou's eyes widened in shock. She can't cook. How could she have never cooked before? He had been watching He Jing cook these few days. She fluttered about the kitchen like an experienced chef, and her knife skills could only have been honed through countless hours of practice. The carrots she sliced were thin and long, uniform in length and width. When she plated her food, nothing was out of place. It was as if her cooking was a work of art. How could someone like that not know how to cook? He Sui's mouth hung open, gobsmacked. "Xiao Yi, don't lie to me." He Yi and He Chen had not been home for a few days, but now, it felt like they had not been home for a few years. Since they were out of the loop, they had no choice but to watch as events played out from the sidelines. The forgotten He Ning finally stood up and said, "He Jing's cooking is better than third brother's, it's true." Cheng Yi's legs gave way, and she fell onto her seat with a thud, her face the color of chalk. She finally understood why He Jing was so confident. He Zhou's cooking had always been good. If He Jing was better than He Zhou, no wonder Yan Hanqi was willing to eat her French jelly. And here she was, thinking that He Jing had bought it. Suddenly, Cheng Yi remembered the cooking class their homeroom teacher had announced yesterday. If He Jing knew how to cook, wouldn't she be in the limelight again? While Cheng Yi was having a mental breakdown, He Zhou was having one of his own. He stared at He Jing and demanded, "Is what Xiao Yi said true?" He believed Cheng Yi's words unconditionally. Moreover, Cheng Yi did not look like she was faking her distress. Is the answer so important? He Jing countered, her neutral expression betraying none of her thoughts. Of course, it was important. If she had never cooked before, then where did she learn her skills from? She couldn't have become so proficient just by watching a few videos, could she? At this point, He Zhou did not know what to think, and he dared not hop into that rabbit hole. He realized the culinary talent he had always been so proud of was, in fact, not worth mentioning in front of He Jing. This revelation shattered the decades' confidence he had painstakingly built up. It was not even 8 o'clock when the birthday dinner ended. Cheng Yi could not sit still for even a second. She immediately got up. Big brother, second brother, third brother, fourth brother, fifth brother, sixth brother, and Xiaogua, I'm going home. Mom and Dad are still waiting for me. He Ning had been watching Cheng Yi, so when she stood up, he said, I'll see you off. Cheng Yi was afraid that the He family would draw the wrong conclusions, thinking about Lu Kokon again, so she rejected him. She picked up her bag and ran away. He Ning could not help but feel a little disappointed. Then, he looked at He Jing, who was helping He Zhou clear the table. Sensing his gaze, she smiled at him. Cheng Yi's swift departure did not affect him at all. He Sui felt that dinner was not as tasty as usual. Leaning over to He Jing, he whispered, "Third brother's cooking isn't very good. You should cook dinner tomorrow." He Yuan was just about to bid farewell to He Jing and return to the dormitory when he heard his siblings' comment. Third brother worked hard through the night to prepare dinner, he teased good-naturedly, "You're heartless." He Sui did not feel ashamed at all. "It's the truth," he retorted, "third brother knows it too, right, third brother?" He Zhou, drinking beer in the corner, retreated to the kitchen with a dark look. Only then did He Sui realize he had said something he should not have and sullenly clamped his mouth shut. Chapter 127, Chapter 127, Special. Chapter 127, Special. The needle struck 9 before household matters had been settled. In the room, He hung the cartoon keychain on his bag. He glanced at He Chen, who stared, enraptured by the bookmark tucked between the pages of his book. Hesitantly, he began, "She seems different from ordinary girls." He Chen smiled, highlighting his fair, refined features. He turned to his brother and said, "It is a good thing, isn't it?" Other girls always confused them for each other, but He Jing did not. Other girls treated them as the same person, but He Jing did not. Even Cheng Yi was not as considerate as He Jing, having bought them the same gift. They had learned to live with it for the longest time. He Jing's intrusion in their lives broke the status quo, flattering them and making them feel like individuals and not just a pair of twins. He eyed the 2 pairs of sneakers sitting side by side at the door. They were brand new and very expensive. Who would have thought we would hate each other despite sharing our mother's womb? He snarked. "You're the one who's spiteful, I've never hated you," He Chen tittered lightly. He did not so much as bat an eye. They were born less than a second apart. Not only did they look alike, but they could also sense each other's emotions. He Chen disliked him in the same way he disliked his brother. It was a fact. He Chen mulled over the day's events and said, "Don't be too optimistic. What if she just bought 2 different gifts? Who's to say she won't become like Xiao Yi and everyone else? There's still a chance she'll treat us like the same person. Today might have been a fluke." He remained silent. He had a hunch that He Jing was not like that, but he could not help but feel uncertain as no one had ever treated him and He Chen as separate individuals before. Conversation soon died between the two of them. When not discussing important matters, they almost always ignored each other and did their own things. A while later, He Zhou entered. An oppressive gloom replaced his usual smiles, and dark clouds hung over his brows. He seemed to be in an extremely bad mood. In the He family, He had the best relationship with He Zhou, far better than He Chen. When he saw him, He asked softly, "What's wrong, third brother? Who's made you upset? Why do you look like a ghost?" He Zhou looked up but did not answer. He ignored He and went straight to bed to lie down. He's eyelids twitched. He was not as stuffy as He Ning and would usually tell others when something made him unhappy. This was the first time He had seen him causing a scene. Based on his understanding of He immediately deduced that the trouble stemmed from He Jing. He could not help but ask, "Where's He Jing? What's she doing now?" "He Jing has gone to the bus stop to send Big Brother off," He replied icily, his back turned away from the twins. He Yuan still had to return to his campus dormitory. He's heart skipped a beat, surprised. Usually, He would be the one to send off He Yuan. Could He be unhappy because He Jing had taken his place? Sister He Jing seems to have a good relationship with Big Brother. He closed his eyes, his mind drifting to He Jing. Not only is she on good terms with He Yuan, she's also conquered the hearts of the He family, he thought. Before he entered the room, he spied He Ning sitting in the living room, pretending to listen to music while tutoring He Xiaogua and helping him with his homework. Yet, not once had his eyes strayed from He Jing's figure, even as she sent He Yuan off. His adoration for He Jing could not be hidden and was no less than that he had for Cheng Yi. A basketball had won his heart. Chapter 128, Chapter 128, Wait for Me. Chapter 128, Wait for Me. As soon as he finished speaking, He Ning pushed open the door and walked in with a basketball in his arms. "What are you guys talking about?" asked the handsome man with a cool expression. His dark eyes swept across the room, surveying the three of them who were conversing. He Chen had the best relationship with He Ning. "We're talking about Sister He Jing," He Chen said. "She seemed special." He Ning was stunned. This was beyond his expectations. "What's so special about her?" he huffed. "It's normal for a wealthy family's pampered young miss to know how to build connections. What's wrong? Are you guys interested in her?" "No, I just have a good impression of her," He Chen answered readily. He Ning's brows furrowed as if he did not like He Chen saying such things. He sat on the bed and placed his new basketball by the headboard. He caressed the basketball with his fingertips like it was the most precious thing in the world. After a while, he said, "She's not as good as you think. You'll know what I mean when you've interacted more with her in the future. Only Big Brother can deal with her." Despite his less than flattering assessment of He Jing, He Ning did not sound convincing. He Chen was sensitive, he knew when it was best to keep one's thoughts to themselves. He did not press the issue and turned to read the fantasy novel he had borrowed from his friend instead. He Jing walked He Yuan to the bus stop, taking out the trash along the way. He Yuan offered to help, but she refused. "Big Brother, you're returning to school, you shouldn't get your hands dirty. The university doesn't offer laundromat services. The trash bag isn't heavy, I can carry it myself." "I'm sorry I can't be home to help smooth things over for you," He Yuan sighed, ruffling his hair in frustration, an apologetic look marring his usually placid disposition. "I'm sure it's hard getting along with the rest. If you get into any arguments with them, come to me. Big Brother will help you resolve it." He Jing dumped the trash into the bin, shaking her head as she did so. "No, no. Fourth brother isn't targeting me anymore, he's become very good to me. Second brother and third brother are cold on the outside but warm on the inside. They're very protective of me. Besides, I can look out for myself. Big Brother, don't treat me like a child." "Oh, have you finished the candy I gave you?" "I have." He Yuan patted He Jing's head. "They were amazing. My classmates were green with envy and cursed me for having such a sweet sister." He Jing smiled brightly, her pretty face lighting up in He Yuan's eyes. "Then I'll send you some more, Big Brother. You're studying at a university, right?" He Yuan was extremely touched, but he refused. "Don't waste your money on me. I haven't been back in a while, and the moment I return, I find myself astonished by how much weight fourth brother has gained. Keep the money and take care of yourself. Don't worry about the others." He Jing pouted. "How can I do that? You're all my brothers. If I don't care for you all, who will?" Anguish gripped He Yuan's heart. The He family had failed He Jing, causing her to live a life in heaven, only to be dragged into the pits of hell. Yet, despite what they had done to her, she did not hate them. Instead, she treated them as her brothers from the bottom of her heart. There was probably no sister in this world who was better than her. I've been researching a particular chip recently, Yuan said. If it proves successful, life won't be so hard for us. You must take good care of yourself. Big Brother will work hard to support you. Jing was slightly surprised. To think the revolutionary chip mentioned in the novel that would mark the rise of the He Corporation was already in the research stages of development. In 3 years at most, the research on the chip would be successful. 3 years. Jing nodded. When she saw the bus coming, she urged him. Big Brother, go quickly. Otherwise, you'll be late arriving back at the dormitory. With much reluctance, Yuan let go and said, wait for me. His soft words rang like the crisp chime of a bell in Jing's ears. I'll work hard and let you live the life of a princess again. Jing's heart warmed. She waved at Yuan and watched as the bus departed. When she turned around, she met with Sui, who had been standing behind her for an indeterminate length of time. Chapter 129, Chapter 129, Cherish. Chapter 129, Cherish. Sui had stood behind the pair, watching the scene unfold with a dumbfounded look. When Jing caught him staring, he looked her straight in the eye and grunted unhappily. I thought you got lost since you took so long to see Big Brother off. He doesn't come back very often, but that doesn't mean he'll never return. Was there a need to talk to him for so long? He's our eldest brother, don't you know how to cherish the times he makes an effort to come home? Jing quipped. Is that how you show you cherish him? How else would I show my appreciation for him? Sui pulled her closer toward him. You idiot. You don't have to please everyone just to ingratiate yourself with us or integrate with the He family. Am I not enough? I'll take care of you, I won't let anyone in the He family bully you. Besides, my grades are great. I'm the most promising of all your brothers. You'll never want anything with me around. All I want are beef meatballs in exchange. Jing could sense how serious Sui was and fell silent. She could not help herself and teased, are you jealous? Are you planning on hogging me all to yourself? Sui flung her arm aside as if she had burned him. That's not true. The reddish tinge coloring the tips of his ears would attest otherwise. His ears, cheeks, and neck flushed that rosy shade of red that so often indicated his fluster. Jing burst into laughter. Sui glared at her, demanding, what are you laughing at? Jing could not help herself and continued teasing him. I didn't expect fourth brother to take me so seriously. I'm so happy. Sui. A smile bloomed on her lips like a rose unfurling its petals. By this point, Sui resembled a cooked lobster from the color of his skin and the steam gushing from his ears. He snorted and smiled. He could not help himself. The next day, Jing went to school and cleaned her drawer. She found the ticket to the Chamber of Horrors that Hanshi had given her. It was almost the weekend, but she had forgotten to redeem the coupons. What's the matter? A warm voice, carrying the tenor of a cello playing on the G string, sounded beside her. Tut tut. Miss Merit student, I hope you don't forget your promise. It did not take Jing long to remember that she had promised to team up with Hanshi to tackle that secret room together. I'm thinking of going out and having fun with my siblings this weekend, Jing said to Hanshi. Hanshi quirked a brow. Sure, but you can only team up with me. All right, Jing agreed readily. Ning and Sui did not look like they were afraid of ghosts at all. Xiaoguo might be afraid, but he would be well looked after with so many of his siblings around. She never went back on her word. Hanshi smirked. There's a competition on the first day the secret room opens to the public. The first player to escape will be awarded a prize. I'm not sure what the prize is, but it'll definitely be generous. Why was there always such a prize involved? What are you thinking about? Hanshi laughed. Although the Yen Corporation is involved in many industries, this is not one of them. She thought that he was secretly helping her again. As expected, she was overthinking things. All right, I'll do my best when the time comes. Wu Yu was holding a book while eavesdropping on the two of them. When he heard this, he could not help but say, Sister Jing, you should think about what you're going to do for cooking class first. Ever since their homeroom teacher announced the recommencement of the school's cooking classes, Zhou Shuer had been beside herself with joy. she often spoke ill about He Jing in class, so when she learned the new cooking teacher was her cousin, Zhou Shuer believed it was the will of the divine, begging her to expose He Jing for the fraud she was. Chapter 130, Is she a cooking black hole? Chapter 130, Is she a cooking black hole? Iran Stater, New York 01D0 Studio Editor, New York 01D0 Studio. The Zhou family was originally in the food and beverage industry, so Zhou Shuer was dissatisfied when He Jing ordered her around. No matter how bad Zhou Shuer's cooking was, she was still better than the average person. He Jing was nothing compared to her, yet she thought she was all that. It made Zhou Shuer feel like giving her a good beating. Now, the opportunity for revenge had finally arrived. Zhou Shuer knew she had to seize this opportunity to humiliate He Jing. Now was no time to think about horror houses or secret rooms. Cheng Yi stepped into the classroom just then. When she heard Zhou Shuer's bold words, she silently cursed, "You idiot." He Jing had Yan Hanqi to protect her. So what if Zhou Shuer's cousin was a teacher? The teacher would still have to tell the truth or risk incurring Yan Hanqi's ire. Zhou Shuer was just setting herself up as a stepping stone for He Jing to bask in the limelight. No. She could not allow it. She had to stop the cooking class from resuming at all costs. Cheng Yi gritted her teeth and called Yi Shuping, hoping she would have some way to stop the cooking classes from being reintroduced into the curriculum. Unfortunately, her prayers were destined to be dashed. Xiao Yi, although the Qing family is a stakeholder in Yin High School, we don't have the right to interfere in the school's day-to-day operations. Focus on your lessons. When you come home, I'll take you to a spa. I won't let you ruin your hands or face from these cooking lessons. Cheng Yi wallowed in despair. Was there no other way? Suddenly, an idea came to her. Meanwhile, Zhou Shuer was also on her phone with her cousin, Zhou Qiu, to confirm that the plan was going smoothly. Don't worry, cousin. I'll settle your grievances for you once I start teaching at Yin High School, Zhou Qiu said, patting his chest. Zhou Shuer hung up and re-entered the classroom. She sniffed smugly at He Jing's direction. As the afternoon cooking class approached, the class broke into a heated discussion. Do you think He Jing knows how to cook? I asked around, but no one in a city seems to be making French jellies. I don't think so. Think about it. He Jing tried everything she could to woo brother Shi, but she never prepared a lunchbox for him. Besides, don't you all remember our last cooking class? He Jing ordered Zhou Shuer to bake a cake, and we all know how the final product turned out. The teacher threw up after taking a bite. She said she had never tasted such a horrible cake before. Wasn't the task quite simple? Only He Jing's group failed. He Jing is a cooking black hole. Shen Qiuyu listened to the chatter and finally lost her cool, slamming her book against the table with a loud bang. She glared at her classmates and said, "Isn't it enough that Sister Jing's grades are among the best? She doesn't have to be good at everything. Does she need to be all-round and achieve perfection before anyone gives her a break?" The gossiping students turned to each other, sharing the same thought, I guess that's true. He Jing had good grades, was pretty, and could even kick mineral water bottles. How many girls out there could compare with her? What did it matter if she could not cook? Zhou Shuer had been closely monitoring her classmates' opinions of He Jing. Sneering, she said, the point isn't whether she is an all-rounder or not. It's fine if she can't cook. What isn't is her continued lies. She blames others for her failures and was also the cause of some of us failing our last cooking. Practical. This is a problem. Shen Qiuyu, you're so stubborn. Why don't you join He Jing later and see how you like it? Shen Qiuyu choked, losing all color on her face. It's just for one lesson. No matter how bad Sister Jing's cooking is, I won't make fun of her. Zhou Shuer's smile widened. It's 3 to a group. You are still missing one person. Who else is willing to join the two of you? Terrified looks were shared among the students, none wanted to be forced into the same group as Shen Qiuyu and He Jing. It was so discomforting that Shen Qiuyu almost cried in anger. You'll regret treating Sister Jing like this, she roared. Zhou Shuer said disdainfully, you're the only one confident in He Jing's cooking. No one else is willing to be in the same group as her. Doesn't that speak for itself? My. I can't wait for our cooking class, a voice sounded. It was as if that person knew something everyone else did not. Chapter 131, Chapter 131, A Problem. Chapter 131, A Problem. Everyone turned to the source of that enchanting voice. Who else could have such an outstanding voice besides Yan Hanqi? He Jing was standing beside him, clearing the table as if she was ready to cook. Shen Qiuyu's eyes lit up, and he laughed. Aren't we a trio now? I still want to join the group. Wu Yu shouted. Zhou Shuer's expression instantly changed. She looked at He Jing and said unwillingly, be mindful of you try to help He Jing. You'll regret it when you're poisoned half to death by her cooking. Yan Hanqi smiled. We'll see. Zhou Shuer stomped her foot in frustration, knowing she was not about to get the upper hand. Finally, the bell rang. It was almost time for their cooking class. Countless eyes followed He Jing and Zhou Shuer as they filed out of the classroom, but before they could all do so, their homeroom teacher stopped them at the door. The students were startled by this development. Your cooking teacher just checked the ingredients and found a problem with today's shipping, their homeroom teacher said. Today's cooking class will be changed to a self-study period. The news caused an uproar in the classroom. It must be you. Zhou Shuer screamed excitedly as she jabbed an accusing finger at He Jing. He Jing had planned to ignore Zhou Shuer, not wanting to lower herself to the latter's IQ by responding to the accusation. However, when everyone looked at her with similar thoughts seemingly churning in their minds, she frowned, her words chilling to the bone. Do you think I'm Naruto? What? Did they think she could create shadow clones? She had not left the classroom for the past few lessons. How could she have tampered with the ingredients? Several heads bobbed in agreement. He Jing had not gone out, so how could she have done something to the ingredients? Zhou Shuer looked at Yan Hanqi and said reluctantly, Brother Shi, you can protect her for 1 day, but you can't protect her for 2. If she doesn't know how to cook, she will be exposed sooner or later. Yan Hanqi chuckled, but his smile did not reach his eyes. So, you think I'm playing tricks? Ah, this. All the students shuddered and shook their heads. This was not something Yan Hanqi could do. Yan Hanqi never played dirty, regardless of whether it was a fight or something less serious. He was always open about things. Even if he wanted to show his favor to someone, he would do so openly. He did not care who you were. Tampering. They were making fun of him. Who else could it be? Was it you, Shen Qiuyu? Zhou Shuer asked. Shen Qiuyu was speechless. Zhou Shuer, don't accuse people like a rabid dog, she scolded. If you have the skill, expose the culprit with proof. Don't let me catch whoever it is. Zhou Shuer growled through gritted teeth. Hiding in the crowd, Cheng Yi looked on coldly from the side. She felt even more disdain for Zhou Shuer. Zhou Shuer might be furious now. But she would thank her in the future. If not for the fact that no one was sincere enough to be useful to her, she would not have become sisters with such an idiot. As she thought about it, she looked at Lu Sisi again, thinking she should repair her relationship with her instead. Due to the problem discovered and the importance the school attached to the cooking class, lessons were postponed to Friday afternoon, and cameras were installed to safeguard against future incidents of this nature. Cheng Yi could no longer tamper with the ingredients. She could only find out about the new cooking teacher and investigate his background to try and make use of him. In the cafe after school, Cheng Yi changed into her school uniform and wore a beautiful white dress. She sat opposite Zhou Shuer's cousin, Zhou Qiu. She smiled and said, Cousin Zhou, hello. I'm Shuer's friend. My name is Cheng Yi. Zhou Qiu's eyes lit up, and his breathing became erratic. Chapter 132, Chapter 132, Lowering the Score. Chapter 132, Lowering the Score. Zhou Qiu loved beautiful women with long black hair. When he saw Cheng Yi, it was as if he had seen his first love. Cheng Yi smiled gently, and the entire cafe lit up. Zhou Qiu spoke softly, afraid to offend the beauty sensibilities, so you're Shuer's friend. Shuer has often mentioned you to me. What's the matter? Is there something you need from me? Cheng Yi bit her lip, bundled emotions spilling forth. She pretended to be in a difficult position. I wanted to talk to you about the cooking class. What's wrong with the cooking class? Zhou Qiu asked, patiently coaxing the words out of Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi mustered up her courage and looked Zhou Qiu in the eyes. I was the one who ruined the ingredients. I didn't want Schwer to get hurt. Why? Zhou Qiu was stunned. It's like this, Cheng Yi began, there's a student in our class called He Jing. She's very good at cooking, but Schwer insists on making things difficult. Schwer said many things that might come back to bite her and even made a bet with student He Jing. She said she would jump out of the building if she lost. I couldn't bear to see Schwer lose face in front of the whole class, so. Brother Zhou, is there anything you can do? Cheng Yi fluttered her long eyelashes, looking extremely pitiful. He Jing knows how to cook. Zhou Qiu was stunned. Didn't Schwer say He Jing could not cook? Why was He Jing pretending otherwise? Cheng Yi replied with certainty, I'm sure student He Jing is very good at cooking. Cousin Zhou will know when we have cooking class later. I wouldn't lie to you. Cheng Yi seemed so sincere that Zhou Qiu could not help but take things at face value, falling silent. Thinking of Zhou Schwer's usually impetuous, pampered, and domineering personality, he felt that Cheng Yi was telling the truth. After thinking about it carefully, he nodded seriously and said, all right, I understand. I'll give He Jing a lower score so that her grades will be more or less like Schwer's. This way, Schwer can keep her face, and He Jing won't be unhappy. After all, Zhou Schwer's cooking was not half bad. Zhou Qiu believed he could mitigate the conflict between the two girls if he handled matters well. Cheng Yi smiled sweetly when she saw she had achieved her goal. Cousin Zhou is so good to Schwer. If only I had a brother like you. Zhou Qiu looked at Cheng Yi again, his heart burning. Almost instinctively, he said, I can be your godbrother. Let's add each other on WeChat. Times passed, and in the blink of an eye, it was Friday, and Zhou Schwer had not slept well for 2 consecutive days. She feared something would go wrong in the cooking class, so she pestered Zhou Qiu several times via WeChat. Only after Zhou Qiu could not take it anymore did he promise Zhou Schwer that all would go well. He Jing was already ready and waiting when they arrived at school. She still looked completely indifferent to the predicament she was in. Zhou Schwer sneered and thought to herself, she must be pretending. I'll rip her facade apart. Little did she know that He Jing was already thinking about the topic of this cooking class and what she should do. She asked Yan Hanqi. Yan Hanqi deliberately teased her. Miss Merit student, are you nervous? He asked. He Jing's expression did not change. This is related to your good fortune, she replied calmly. If you're unwilling to tell me, then forget it. Yan Hanqi raised his eyebrows. From what I know, it's probably something like French cuisine. He Jing was speechless. French food again. What about Chinese food? Chinese food is delicious. Yan Hanqi laughed. Yin High School is an elite school, after all. They won't let the teachers teach students how to stir-fry shredded cabbage and braised eggplant. That would be tasteless, not to mention all the oil and smoke it would create. I doubt many students would be willing to take cooking lessons if they had to suffer through that. He Jing thought about it. That made sense. She cooked a lot of French food, so it should not be a problem. Chapter 133, Chapter 133, Just you wait and see. Chapter 133, Just you wait and see. The days flew by, and soon, it was the second last class of a certain Friday afternoon. It was time for the long-awaited cooking class. Zhou Schwer was full of confidence that she would embarrass He Jing today. Occasionally, she would glance at He Jing with eyes full of pride and anticipation. Schwer, what are you going to do? A girl who was on good terms with her asked. When I passed by the teacher's office just now, I heard our new cooking teacher say that the topic for today's cooking class is French cuisine. Zhou Schwer had already thought about it. I'll make a French pan-fried sole, she replied, it is my specialty and one of France's more important dishes. It will amaze everyone. Even in front of a professional gourmet, she showed no fear. The girl on good terms with Cheng Yi gloated. I'm sure He Jing must be miserable. Let's see how she covers up for her lie. Zhou Schwer could already see He Jing crying and begging for mercy in her mind's eye. The corners of her lips curled up. Cooking classes were held in Block B of the Yin High School teaching building. When He Jing arrived, most of her classmates were waiting outside the kitchen, and the new cooking teacher was already standing at the long kitchen table. He was dressed in a chef's uniform and briefly introduced himself. When she heard the surname, Zhou, the whole class gasped and looked at He Jing sympathetically. Zhou. It was not inconceivable to think of a connection between this new cooking teacher and Zhou Shuer. Shen Qiuyu sidled up to He Jing. She held her phone in a vice and whispered. Sister Jing, this is bad. I've looked up our new teacher's profile. He's Zhou Shuer's cousin. Let me see, He Jing said. Shen Qiuyu handed her the phone. He Jing picked it up and took a look. On the screen was the profile of Zhou Shuer's relative drawn from Baidu. Zhou Shuer was listed among his relatives. Their new cooking teacher's resume was quite impressive. He was so qualified that it would not have been strange if he were the head chef of a 5-star restaurant. Miss Merit student, are you having second thoughts? Yan Hanshi asked with a smile. Why should I? He Jing retorted. Although he was a chef qualified to work in a 5-star restaurant, it did not mean he was more skilled than her. He Jing had confidence in herself, and she knew her ability. He Jing felt Zhou Qiu's eyes on her as she spoke to Yan Hanshi. His gaze was exceptionally piercing, dark, and sinister. She knew at a glance that she was in trouble. It seemed today's cooking class was destined to be fraught with trouble. Zhou Qiu was not the only one eyeing He Jing, Cheng. He was also. Her rouge-red lips were contorted in a smirk. It looked like she could not wait for the show. She had discussed it with Zhou Qiu. It was not enough to just lower the score. To vent her anger on Zhou Shuer, Zhou Qiu would customize a more difficult topic for He Jing later. With the increased difficulty, He Jing was bound to flounder, and the chances of her making a mistake would increase. Let's see how you'll have the face to present your cooking for Zhou Qiu to judge afterward. At this moment, Zhou Shuer stepped forward and said, Cows. Ahem. Teacher, I have something to say. Let's conduct the cooking class in the form of a PK. This way, the cooking skills of each group will improve swiftly. Zhou Shuer's suggestion caused an uproar. Zhou Shuer was simply too scheming. She just wanted to embarrass He Jing. However, the new cooking teacher pretended to be in deep thought, nodding only after a while. That's a very good suggestion. Then, we'll conduct today's class based on Zhou Shuer's suggestion. Shen Qiuyu's expression changed instantly. She stomped her feet in anger. I don't agree. Zhou Shuer sniffed, looking down her nose at Shen Qiuyu. This is teacher Zhou's first lesson with us. Are you going to disobey him already? She mocked. Shen Qiuyu was speechless. Hence, Zhou Shuer looked at He Jing and sneered. Teacher, I request to compete with student He Jing in cooking. If I win, He Jing must kneel and apologize to me. Chapter 134, Chapter 134, I accept this duel. Chapter 134, I accept this duel. Kneeling. Apologizing. This was too ruthless. Even those students who were not close to He Jing could not help but speak up for her. Teacher, this is bullying. You can't agree to it. Zhou Shuer immediately retorted, Teacher, He Jing bullied me in our previous cooking class. This is a personal grudge between us. Please give me this chance to settle it. Zhou Qiu had wanted to persuade Zhou Shuer to give up on the idea, but seeing how persistent she was, he could only change tactics. A conflict between classmates should be resolved peacefully. You shouldn't be so vindictive. However, if it's a purely culinary PK, as long as student He Jing agrees, we can start dash. What do you think? He asked, turning to He Jing. Zhou Shuer never expected Zhou Qiu to side with He Jing. She shrieked, no. He Jing would not agree. As long as one had a brain, no one would agree to this duel, knowing that their culinary skills were inferior. However, He Jing's eyes were indifferent as she said, okay. Zhou Shuer's pupils trembled. She could not believe it. What? What just happened? She agreed. All the students gasped and looked at He Jing in extreme shock and disbelief. Even the student who had stepped forward to help He Jing opened his mouth wide and said angrily. Student He Jing, don't be rash. If she agreed, wouldn't his actions be for nothing? People might even say he was a busybody. He Jing smiled gently, her usually cold expression turning lively. Thank you, Jiang Shu. I'll let you try my cooking later. Jiang Shu, who stood on the receiving end of He Jing's brilliant smile, flushed. He was already happy to receive her gratitude. For He Jing to be willing to cook for him alone. No, there was no way she could win this PK. How could she when their teacher was biased? He Jing. Jiang Shut's anger turned into worry. Student He Jing, please reconsider. He Jing's smile was suffused with warmth. It was beautiful, yet dangerous. Even her tone carried a hint of nonchalance. There's no need for me to reconsider anything. I'm willing to accept Zhou Shuer's challenge. However, what will I get if I beat her? Zhou Shuer quickly regained her senses, and her usual haughty, almost disdainful posturing returned in full force. Without more than a second's thought, she cried, "How can I lose? You must be joking. If I lose, I shall drop out of school and never appear before you again." He Jing was speechless. It was her first time seeing someone who could speak so decisively. Since Zhou Shuer is so sincere, let's begin. He Jing said, to ensure the fairness of the PK and to prevent Zhou Shuer from being wrongly expelled, I would like to invite everyone present to be the judges. Teacher, are the terms acceptable? She asked Zhou Qiu. Zhou Qiu felt like a fly caught in a spider's web. His eyebrows twitched. There are dozens of people here. Can you make so many dishes in the stipulated time? I'll try. It felt like the situation was progressing along uncharted waters. It was not following the script he had planned. Zhou Qiu glanced at Cheng Yi. Seeing that Cheng Yi was frowning, he gritted his teeth. Yes, they are. He Jing smiled faintly. It was a devilishly alluring sight. All right, let's begin. Teacher, please give us today's topic for our cooking class. Chapter 135, Chapter 135, You're still in the mood to drink red wine. Chapter 135, You're still in the mood to drink red wine. Zhou Qiu had some understanding of his cousin, Zhou Shuer. He knew she was a deft hand at cooking fish-related dishes. What was the French pan-fried sole to her? It was one of her specialties. Still, he could not appear biased, so he pretended to be deep thought as he said, "How about the sole?" he asked. "Sure," He Jing said calmly. Sole. It was something He Jing was tired of making. With the topic established, the PK officially began. The other students were also expected to cook sole, but it was obvious that no one had the mind to focus on their cooking. Instead, their attention was split between He Jing and Zhou Shuer. "You're dead, He Jing," Zhou Shuer said to He Jing, who was not far away from her, as she tied her apron. He Jing ignored her and took off her hair tie. She untied her high ponytail and retied it into a bun. The boys in the class were gobsmacked. He Jing looked so good in a bun. However, before they could stare for more than 2 seconds, they felt a chill on the back of their necks. They turned around and saw Yan Hanshi with a faint smile and a cold gaze. The boys felt their hearts leap to their throats. They did not dare cast their wandering eyes over He Jing any longer. Shen Qiuyu shouted, "Sister Jing, get her." "Shen Qiuyu, please keep quiet. This is still a lesson," Cheng Yi's mellow voice sounded. As she spoke, she glanced at Zhou Qiu at the head table. Zhou Qiu coughed and scolded. "Shen Qiuyu, if you continue to cause a ruckus, you'll stand outside as punishment." Shen Qiuyu glared at Cheng Yi fiercely. "They're in cahoots," she cried in her mind. However, she said nothing else, turning her attention to Zhou Shuer and He Jing. Since He Jing dared to accept this PK, she must know how to cook. The only question that remained was who was better, Zhou Shuer or He Jing. Zhou Shuer was the first to take action. She fished a fresh sole from the fish tank and cleaned it up neatly while He Jing remained still. Shen Qiuyu could not help but feel a little anxious. Could He Jing have agreed to this PK impulsively and did not know how to cook? When He Jing finally took action, she first popped a bottle of red wine from the refrigerator, poured it into a glass, and took a sip. Her action stupefied the class. Was she not going to cook? The class was only 45 minutes long, and she had to share the equipment with the rest. Zhou Suer was originally worried that He Jing could cook. Why else would she accept her challenge? With her actions, was she afraid she would be exposed and mocked? Was that why she was not doing anything? Humph. Zhou Shuer could not help but snort. "He Jing, it's not too late for you to admit defeat now," she said with disdain. "Why should I admit defeat? He Jing finished the glass of red wine in one gulp, a teasing smile tugging at her lips. Her interest had been diode. She always drank a little before cooking, it was a habit. But it was also a sign that she was treating the challenge seriously. The only other time she had gotten serious was when the master of French cuisine, Chef Ferlin, tested her on how much she had learned. He Jing set aside her empty wine glass and strode toward the tank, picking the biggest sole by its tail. The sole, sensing danger, tried its best to escape, but it was in vain. To outsiders, it almost looked like the fish was leaping into He Jing's arms as if knowing it would soon be cooked into a wonderful pan-fried sole. He Jing did not disappoint. Everyone watched the scene unfold in a daze. They looked like a bunch of automatons that had short-circuited. Even Zhou Qiu was on his feet instantly, his eyes the size of dinner plates. Meanwhile, Cheng Yi's expression had morphed into one of shock. How did she do it? Compared to Zhou Shuer, who had to work so hard to cut and scale the fish, He Jing had finished processing the fish, separating it into its constituent parts in seconds. No wonder she could be so carefree as to spend her precious minutes drinking wine. Yan Hanqi smiled. He glanced at Zhou Qiu at the cooking table and called Wu Yu over. He whispered a few instructions to him and asked him to sneak out. No one noticed this detail because He Jing attracted everyone's attention. Chapter 136, Chapter 136, How does she know everything? Chapter 136, How does she know everything? What is He Jing doing? I don't know. Maybe she's steaming the sole. She poured the rest of the red wine on the sole. It is for cooking, isn't it? She added so many spices. What is she doing? I don't know. I don't understand at all. He Jing put down the empty bottle of red wine and prepared the sauce. The most important thing in French cuisine was the sauce. It was the essence of a dish and the foundation of any good chef of French cuisine. He Jing had decided on the tried-and-true combination of mixing ketchup and mayonnaise, along with a large serving of chopped celery and a pinch of black pepper. The pepper would stimulate the taste buds and complement the mix of ketchup and mayonnaise. As there was no ready-made mix of the latter, He Jing had to make it from scratch. The process was smooth, almost as if she had done it 1,000 times before. Bright red tomatoes were crushed, and onions and carrots were diced, which were soon mixed into a bowl with butter and ketchup. All that was left was the mayonnaise. He Jing may have omitted some ingredients that made up the authentic French ketchup, but she would make up for it with chicken stock and the bacon she had thawing in the fridge. Zhou Shuer spied on He Jing's sauce, watching it inch closer to completion. Gritting her teeth, she sped up, not wanting to be outdone. She washed her sole fish and started on the sauce. However, in her hurry, Zhou Shuer forgot the recipe, and it took her a long time to remember what to do. The pressure she felt was immense. And He Jing was the cause. Damn. How does she know everything? Zhou Shuer silently cursed. She quickly forced herself to calm down when she recalled her biting words about He Jing. Zhou Shuer, you can't lose here. Perhaps it was the encouragement she gave herself, but Zhou Shuer finally suppressed her fear and tallied her advantages. She had learned cooking from chefs all over the country since she was young, and her experience was far beyond that of ordinary people. He Jing's technique might be exquisite, but as the saying goes, taste is king. He Jing's cooking might not taste as good as it looked. A mouth-watering fragrance permeated the kitchen as time passed. The longer she immersed herself in cooking, the more confident Zhou Shuer became. Watching the transformation of her soul from a hapless fish to a stunning dish while He Jing was still slaving away at the stove, Zhou Shuer could not help but feel proud. One's cooking speed was often a direct indicator of a person's skill level. Since He Jing had not finished cooking yet, it was obvious her skill was inferior to hers. To think she had been frightened by the ability He Jing demonstrated earlier. It was ridiculous. Shen Qiuyu and the others grew more anxious as time passed. They began discussing in hushed tones. Why isn't Sister Jing done yet? It feels like the fish is only halfway cooked. Ah. It's finally in the pot. What is she trying to do? What? Is it also a pan-fried sole? It can't be. Isn't that Zhou Shuer's specialty? Is He Jing trying to compete with her head on? Zhou Shuer had already plated her fish. It looked very tasty. She cocked her head, her nose in the air, and said, "Teacher, He Jing hasn't finished cooking yet. You can try mine first. I've made a lot. You can eat more of it later when Yi Ling is done. Zhou Qiu, who had been watching the competition, noted how Zhou Shuer was the first to finish and thought victory was certain for his cousin. He felt relieved. Cheng Yi must have been bragging about He Jing's skills on WeChat. Perhaps her real ability was only SOSO. In terms of cooking, who could compare to the Zhou family? He nodded and pretended to be serious. All right, then bring it over. The rest will be given to the other students. Just as Zhou Shuer was about to serve her French pan-fried sole, a powerful fragrance suddenly engulfed the kitchen from He Jing's side. Everyone turned around and saw He Jing lift the lid of the pot as if she had detonated an aroma bomb. Chapter 137, Chapter 137, Your Fish ISN, T Authentic. Chapter 137, Your Fish ISN, T Authentic. Fragrant. It was too fragrant. This fragrance contained the elegance of red wine, the sweetness of fish, and the aroma of some unknown spice. White, wispy clouds of steam curled up, filling the classroom with the tantalizing smell of He Jing's pan-fried sole. Under its influence, all who inhaled it became subjects to the kingly scent, causing countless souls to swallow their saliva, their stomachs aching with want. It was not time to eat yet, but the mouth-watering aroma had whet the appetites of those present. It was as if they were gluttonous beasts lured over by their unfettered desires. He Jing scooped the fragrant sole out of the pan. Everyone wanted a bite, their actions controlled by some primal instinct that demanded their stomachs be filled. He Jing cut her sole into dozens of evenly sized portions. Only then did the class realize that He Jing had fried not 1 but 6 fish. No wonder she was so slow. To fry 6 fish in one pan. Wouldn't it take at least 30 minutes if she were to fry them one at a time? Not to mention how long it would take most to prepare the fish. When they looked at the clock, they were astounded that only 35 minutes had passed since the start of class. Heavens! What kind of speed was this? Hadn't she spent a long time preparing the sauce earlier? Could it be that the long time in their eyes was only a few minutes in her hands? At this moment, a pure and innocent female voice sounded from the side. It looks like a home-cooked dish. Zhou Qiu returned to his senses and quickly walked up to He Jing. He looked at her sauce and shook his head, pretending to be regretful. No, this isn't authentic French cuisine. Student He Jing, you might have to redo it. He Jing was plating her food when she heard her teacher's comments. Unhurriedly, she asked, what's not authentic about it? Zhou Qiu pointed at the sauce. Tomato sauce and mayonnaise don't go together. Mixing a brown sauce and a white sauce would have been better. Your method doesn't conform to the most basic tenets of French cuisine. He Jing quirked a brow, finding it funny. Teacher, do you know what French cuisine is? Are you doubting my qualifications? Zhou Qiu asked with a straight face. He Jing did not answer him directly. Although French cuisine has rigorous requirements for the method of cooking, it also emphasizes maintaining the original flavor of the ingredients used. French cuisine does not limit the chef's imagination. Besides, ketchup and mayonnaise are staples in French cuisine. They are key ingredients in making Thousand Island sauce. The modern Thousand Island sauce is derived from this, He Jing said slowly. Newer versions use lemon juice, boiled eggs, sweet peppers, pickled cucumbers, and so on to lighten the strong tomato base. However, that doesn't negate the existence of the older version of Thousand Island sauce. I've prepared the ketchup and mayonnaise using French techniques. Is this not French enough, teacher? Zhou Qiu fell silent, feeling choked by He Jing's rebuttal. Of course, he knew, but seeing the situation was worsening for Zhou Shuer, he tried picking on He Jing. He did not expect He Jing to be so knowledgeable, however. Teacher, don't tell me you're going to disregard professional ethics just to make things difficult for Sister Jing. Shen Qiuyu questioned loudly. Zhou Qiu spun around and glared at Shen Qiuyu. I'm sorry, he apologized to He Jing. I must have remembered things wrongly. Indeed, this is an authentic French pan-fried sole and sauce. Please continue. He Jing plated the last sole and served it with the sauce she had prepared. Teacher, it's done, she said. Please judge it. Zhou Qiu had no choice but to return to the kitchen counter and appear like he was being fair and just. Zhou Shuer was unhappy with her cousin's actions, believing he had thrown their family's face in the gutter. Snorting coldly, she said, "All of that is just words. We still don't know whether your food is edible or not. Teacher, eat mine first. My fish is getting cold." Part 6 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.